Hello, everybody. I will wait the, 20 seconds. Let me know in the chat if you're watching this live, if you can see and hear me. Yeah, I guess I'll just get going as well, but I'm sure it's working because it says live, so we're live. So hope everybody is doing well today. It's Leap Day, which sounds fun, but I don't think actually means anything. So it's almost been enough time. Yeah, I think people are, I think this is working. I never know. Sometimes sometimes it works right away. Sometimes it doesn't. I will actually get started in 2 seconds, just checking in on the chat. No, it says there's lots of viewers watching. So hold on. Yeah, so I'll get started because it looks like a lot of people can see and hear me. Some people just need to refresh, which they won't know because they're not seeing this live. So anyways, I am Paul Jarvis. I'm the guy that made the Chimp Essentials course. And mostly I made it because a lot of people were always asking questions about MailChimp. And I just want people to be able to use all the features that they're already paying for, like segmentation and automation and all of those fun things. So I'm gonna get started here. I'm gonna go over to the questions. I was gonna leave like 5 minutes at the end to talk about the course and that, but I'm not. I'm just gonna go for 60 minutes answering questions. If you wanna take the course, awesome. If you don't wanna take the course, that's fine too. So I'm just gonna dive right into answering questions. So Rabina asked, limitations of free MailChimp versus paid. So there's a page on MailChimp's site that actually lays this out better than I can talk about. It's mailchimp.com/pricing/free. I added that as a comment in that question. But really, I don't think you should take the Chimp Essentials course if you just have the free account, because it's for business. And there's a lot of things like automation that you can't do with a free account. So, and the paid account I'm talking about is just like $10 a month and up. I'm not talking about the pro, the $200 a month and up. So yeah, if you just have a free account, I would either consider upgrading or maybe, yeah, the course isn't for you, because there's so much stuff that you can do, even if you're paying $10 a month, that is covered in the lessons. So if you didn't have the paid account, you would go through all the lessons and probably just be frustrated that you couldn't do a lot of the things that you need the paid account for. So the next question that I asked myself this question: why MailChimp? So Paul, thanks for asking. You're welcome. I use MailChimp because it's just the program that works the best for me and for my business and does the things that I need it to do. And I know there are about a gazillion other email programs out there, like ConvertKit, which is awesome, Drip, which is awesome, Aweber, which, no judgment. So it doesn't, whatever you're using for your mailing list, if it works for you, use that. You don't have to use MailChimp. I love MailChimp because it does exactly what I need it to do for my business. And it makes me money, which is good. And it helps me connect the people that have specific interests with specific parts on my mailing list. So that's really why I like to use MailChimp. Sorry, if people are asking questions in the chat, I'm only one person, so I'm not looking at the chat. So if you have a question, ask it on the left-hand side where the question box is. Otherwise, I'm probably going to miss it. So ask questions in the question part, not in the chat, because I can't pay attention to both and talk to you lovely people at the same time. So the next question I asked myself, and I added these questions just to get things started when I made this event, but it's a question that I get a lot. Why newsletters and why not social media or ads or other things? And what I've found, because I've tried all the other things, although granted, I haven't tried ads a whole lot, but what I've found is that just from a pure return on investment standpoint, I make about 120 times return with newsletters. So if I spent, for every dollar I spend on MailChimp, I make $120 return. Whereas with ads, I tried this last year for my course Creative class. I think I spent over 2 months, $4,000 on Google and Facebook ads, and I made $400. So it was awful. And I hired experts with ads because I don't know ads, so I wasn't going to just try it myself and then call it a failure when it would obviously fail. I actually hired people who knew what they were doing, and it just didn't work. And what I found is social media, so that's ads. So social media, there's just too much noise. Like people are all tweeting or Facebooking. I don't use Facebook, so I don't know what the Facebook verb is. But I just find that with newsletters, if you get people on your list and you run your list in a smart way and in an engaging way, then people pay attention because you show up where they spend a lot of their time, which is their inbox. And secondly, when they're looking at an email, they're only looking at that one email. Whereas on Twitter or Facebook or something else, they're constantly being bombarded with like the next tweet and the next thing. So it just feels like it's a good place to connect with people who are interested in what you're doing, if you're interesting and if you're like valuable, right? So that's why I like newsletters, especially for a small business that makes things like info products like courses or books or even small SaaS companies, because email is the best bang for your buck and it's the easiest way to engage with a captive audience. So Joni asks, creative strategies for growing a new list other than annoying pop-ups. I think the main thing, and this obviously is not marketing, I just talk about the technical aspect, but this is something that I spend a lot of time doing, and I do a lot of consulting for people with that, and I've used, I guess, email marketing to grow my own business. So the best way to grow your list is to get people, because audience growth so I'll back up a step. Audience growth happens when people who are already part of your audience share it with their audience. That's the main way to grow your audience. So the best way that I've personally found to grow my mailing list is to give my existing subscribers things that they really, really want to share with others. So for me, it's articles. I write an article every single Sunday. I share it with my list every single Sunday. And in turn, the people that are on my mailing list share those articles with their audience. And compared to like the sign up box on my site or posting on social media or anything else, I get more signups. I grow my list the most by sending out emails to my list. So I do this by a few things, and this is something that I do teach in the course. So I have a conditional tag in every single one of my campaigns that if you're already on my mailing list, it ignores it. If you aren't on my mailing list, it shows you a note at the beginning of the article and at the bottom of the article saying, hey, if you like articles like this, sign up for more like this. It's worded better because I can write a lot better than I can speak. And it says something like, if you want these articles like this automatically in your inbox every Sunday, then you can sign up for the Sunday dispatches. And that tends to drive the most things. And I've tried like freebies and bonuses and content upgrades and all of that. And they do work a little bit, but what I found works the best is if I spend my time focused on providing awesome content to my existing subscribers and they share it, they share my list, and that grows my list far better than anything else. So the next question, tips for making newsletters help with actual conversions, getting clients out of it. So tips for making, sorry, there's not a question mark and the sentence. I understand what you're trying to say. So tips for making newsletters help with actual conversions. So typically people don't buy things or become a client at the first time they hear about you or the first time they hear about something. You need to hit them with a bunch of times, multiple times, in order for them to feel like they want to buy your thing or to sign up for your service, which is why automation sequences work really well. So if you have a product, like I have, for example, Creative Class, I have 7 free email lessons that go out over 7 days, and then the 8th day is a pitch. The 9th day is a surprise bonus that is all the lessons in a PDF. And then the 9th day is a case study of somebody that took my class, now makes 250% more Thanks, Michael. I'm glad you took my class and have seen those results. And so there's 7 pitches, and then there's 7 lessons and then 3 pitches. And it's typically not till they get to the final pitch that email converts the best. So they have to hear about the course content over 7 emails, and then they get 2 pitches about it. And then on the 3rd pitch, they're like, okay, I've seen this. There's testimonials spread throughout. And so the best way to get conversions in email is to mention things more than once, even with launching, to get a little meta, launching Chimp Essentials. I started talking about Chimp Essentials in my newsletter a few months before. I started talking about it, I think, just before I went away for 2 months. So I started talking about it in October because I don't write newsletters for November and December. So you got to hit people lots of times before they feel comfortable. You need to share success stories or testimonials or case studies with them. You need to share more than just a pitch. You need to give them like the emotional reason why, because people buy because of emotional reasons, not just because of like return on investment or that sort of thing. So you got to get creative with that. That's a good question. So the next question is from Megan. How do you brainstorm topics or what to say? I'm overwhelmed coming up with blog content ideas, social media, and now newsletters. So Megan, my screen just got really green for a second and now it's not. Anyways, Megan, good question. Maybe because your avatar is green, it made my screen go green or something like that. I don't know. But so I hear you on the overwhelm. So the first thing that I would consider is making content one time and then reusing it a bunch of times. So for me, I write one article that goes out to my mailing list, and then 4 or 5 days later, that same article goes onto my site. And then when I was doing syndication, 4 or 5 days after that, it would get syndicated into like Fast Company or HuffPo or Inc. or the Next Web or that sort of thing. So, and then there would be tweets and social media scheduled posts all throughout. So you do the work one time and then you share it and you add it to different places multiple times. So your strategy could be day 1, you send it out to your newsletter because you're rewarding your newsletter subscribers by getting your content before anybody else. And then 3 days later, maybe that same content goes on your blog and then you can start sharing it on social media. And then 3 days later, maybe you post it on Medium. Maybe you get some traction there. So it can be overwhelming, but if you use the same content over a few times, and then the other thing you can do is maybe a month later, turn that article into a podcast. I do that for my podcast, The Freelancer. A lot of the topics that I talk about are articles that I've already written. So I write content one time and I get like 4 or 5 uses out of it, which is awesome, especially when you're one person and you have a lot to do, right? So it's that's definitely what I suggest. The other thing that I would suggest is make yourself a content calendar. And really all that is a simple spreadsheet that says the day that you're posting something and where, the topic, and then you can start to get ahead of your schedule. So I like to work typically 3 weeks to a month ahead of my schedule. So I've always got 3 to 4 weeks of articles written. So that way I'm not always stressed out like, I got to send an article out this Sunday and it's Friday and I don't have it written. I would rather have more space. So then I can constantly be writing articles, but I don't have to get them done like a day in the future. I can get them done and I can put them in the queue. I can schedule them in MailChimp. I can schedule them in WordPress, and then it's good to go. So next question. Mandy, what converts better, fancy designed emails or very simple text-only emails? So my buddy Nathan, who runs ConvertKit, which I guess is a competition to MailChimp, but I don't care. I like Nathan, and ConvertKit is kind of cool. He ran some tests and he found that plain text emails converted far better than fancy designed emails. But the caveat there, I think, is that it depends on the business you have. And I would always test this. And that's why MailChimp's A/B testing tools are great. Because if you're a massive B2C, like if you're Target or Walmart, all of their emails have lots of images. I'm not on Target or Walmart's mailing list. This is just a guess. But all of their emails have lots and lots of images because they're sending out massive things and massive discounts on products that have a lot of volume. Whereas the customers of ConvertKit, and even a lot of the customers of MailChimp and the people like you guys and myself, we're not massive B2C companies. We're either small B2B or sell info products or similar things like that. So I would play around for myself, for my own mailing list. So I send out an email once a week. There's a hummingbird at my window, which is really distracting. But so I send an email out once a week, and I've tested this a few times where I've done plain text versus plain text with a little bit of styling in my logo, and the variant that I test that has my logo with a little bit of styling actually converts a bit better. But that's only one image and a little bit of styling. Like I think I use Georgia at 18 pixels, and that's about the bulk of my styling. Then I change the colors to my brand colors. So I would test it, but I would always err on the side of simple for the emails that you're sending out. Next question, also from Mandy. Please discuss best practices for list management, multiple list segments, groups. I know groups are recommended. So this isn't a pitch, but the whole course, Chimp Essentials, deals with how to set it up. So I don't really need to get into it now. Otherwise, I'd use up the rest of the 40 minutes. But definitely, you want to track who's, basically the gist is this. You want to track people, where they come from when they sign up for your newsletter, and what they purchased from you or done with you, like webinars. So when you're sending emails to them, you can get a little more personalized. And that the whole reason I made the course was to teach people that. So that's covered in the course quite a bit. So Jean asked, how can you set up MailChimp to use it for different offers? Say you have a class and an ebook. How do you funnel names for the sign-up offer into the same list? I'm unclear how that's done. So what happens, and what I hear from a lot of people is this. So, and this is a little complicated in MailChimp, and it shouldn't be, but there is a simple way around it. And I teach this. There's actual screen walkthroughs of how to do this in the course. So if you have a sign-up form on your site for your just normal mailing list, right? And then you have a product on your site, and you have a sign-up form to notify people when your product launches. If you just copy and paste the HTML form from MailChimp to your site, if they try to sign up for your product, they'll get an error saying they're already signed up for your list. This is bad. You don't want that. This is not how it should work, but unfortunately that's how it works. So what I do to get around that is I install a plugin called MC4WP, which is MailChimp for WordPress. And what that does is it uses MailChimp's API to update existing subscribers. So you can have 50 different forms on your mailing list, and they can all be for different things. But if somebody signs up for it, they just get the interest group that they sign up for. Say you have a page on your site that has a form to sign up for when your product launches, that just adds them into an interest group if you set it up using a plugin that ties into MailChimp's API. And that way you can have multiple forms that add people to different interest groups that are all on the same list. Because what you really want to do is have one list for your business and have it segmented in tons of different groups and segments based on what people are interested in, what people have purchased from you, what people have signed up for, whether it's a live event or a webinar or that sort of thing. And then you can start to send them things. Like if they're on your list for a product notification, then you can start an automation sequence for them saying, like, I know you're interested in the product, it's coming out next week, or then a launch automation sequence saying, hey, it's out. And then a few days later, hey, if you haven't bought it already, because you can segment people out of your automation sequence based on if they purchased or not, if you set it up that way. So that's really what I suggest, because it makes the most sense to have one mailing list for your business. And MailChimp, just using their straight HTML forms makes it a little difficult. But if you use a plugin like MailChimp for WordPress, there's a discount in Chimp Essentials. If you don't want to sign up for the course and you want the discount anyways, just email me, bananas@chimpessentials.com. I don't care if you sign up for the course or not. It's a great plugin. The guy who made it is an awesome guy. I use that plugin for every single one of my websites, and it's a real lifesaver. So if you want the discount, just email me, or the discount is in the course as well. So cool. Um, what are from Connor again, or Conor? I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name because there's extra O's that I didn't see before. What are your recs for the best calls to action for newsletters? I don't know. It depends on your audience and it depends on your site. But what I will say is there's shitty calls to action. So sign up for my newsletter is a shitty call to action. You're basically demanding something from somebody and not giving them any benefit for taking that course of action. The next thing that is shitty for a sign up is sign up for my free newsletter. That's like saying, listen to my free podcast. Newsletters and podcasts are free. That's how they work. So saying things like that is not really necessary. So instead, start to think about what's the main benefit somebody will get if they sign up for your list. Is it the value from the content? Is it some sort of freebie that you have made or bonus that you have made? Think about the type of person you want on your list and what would make them feel like, hey, this is so awesome, I need to give that person my email. And that's the best call to action. So just saying things like, sign up for my list, doesn't really work. Sign up for my free list, doesn't really work. So definitely think about what you can do that showcases a benefit to your intended audience member instead of just get my emails, right? So it takes a bit of thought. It can also take a bit of A/B testing. You can use something like Optimizely and test to see the conversion rates for different calls to action, which I've done in the past and what's led me to the call to action that I currently use on my website. So don't just even blindly take the call to action on my personal site either, because it's not stealing. I don't really care if you take it, but it's not going to be the best for you or your audience because your brand and your audience are different than mine. So I see a lot of people who just take just lift text from my site, and yeah, I guess it is stealing. I don't care, but it's not gonna benefit them. So I don't know. I would start to play with your own audience instead and start to see what you can do that gives value to them instead of just blindly reading blog posts on the internet, like the best tips and tactics for calls to action. Just try things with your own audience and just be like a real human being about it. I think that always works the best. Colleen asks, I'm just getting over a cold as well, so I'm a little raspy and a little snuffly, so sorry about that. But Colleen asks, can you talk about frequency of email newsletters? I was thinking of sending one every quarter. Is that too infrequent? Without any hard data on this, because I've never done one a quarter, I would say that's far too infrequent. So I think monthly is probably the longest cadence I would ever think about, because you're going to start to run into a situation where people are unsubscribing or confused because they don't remember who you are or why they're getting this email from you, because your business is the most important to you, but to people on your mailing list, they may have forgotten. So I send out emails every week, and that's definitely the frequency that works the best for my business, because my business runs on content. All of my revenue is generated from my MailChimp mailing list. So sending out emails once a week, I don't think is bothersome. It's not too often for people, but it keeps me present in people's inboxes and in people's minds that I exist, that my products exist, that I'm writing articles for people like them. So every quarter is probably too infrequent. Once a month is probably, like I said, the longest I would go without sending an email to people. Otherwise, they're going to start dropping off or start not opening them or that sort of thing. Florence asked, WordPress plugins, Woo, Chimp, and Zapier, conflict or harmonious for different automation triggers? So now I don't know what Woo Chimp is. I'm pretty sure it's for WooCommerce. I've never used WooCommerce. I've never used Woo Chimp. Sorry, I don't know anything about that. But Zapier is definitely awesome. And there's actually a lesson in Chimp Essentials for Zapier, because I think it's really important, because what you want to do is, if somebody buys one of your products and isn't put on your mailing list, that's bad. And it's not a matter of putting them on your mailing list so you can send them your newsletter. It's a matter of putting them on your mailing list so you can send them targeted emails. So what I like to do, because in the past I've used Gumroad, I don't use Gumroad anymore, but I use Stripe. But in both scenarios, you can use Zapier. So say somebody buys your ebook or your course on Gumroad. Their email address is now stored in Gumroad, which doesn't do your MailChimp list any good. So what you can do is create a Zap in Zapier. So every time somebody buys your Gumroad product, they're zapped onto MailChimp into a group for that product. So you may not necessarily want to email them your weekly newsletter if you have one. I don't personally do that. I know a lot of people who do, and technically it's not against the law because a purchase is implied consent, as far as I know with CAN-SPAM law. But what I do is if I'm sending out, say, a sale on one of my products, I'll exclude people that are on my list, that signed up for my list, that have bought the product because they already have the product. Or I'll change the call to action if it makes sense, where it's, would a friend like to buy this instead of would you like to buy this? So using Zapier to send emails from your e-commerce to your MailChimp is always a good idea, mostly for segmentation and exclusion, or for personalization. So WooChimp, my guess is WooChimp does probably the same thing, but I don't know, because I never use WooChimp or WooCommerce. Jazz asks, should I send a weekly resume of my blog for increased pages views, or should I add new content for my subscribers? So this is a good question. This is something that people ask all the time. Is should I send my blog posts to my mailing list? And the reason why I didn't include RSS in the lessons is because I don't personally think it's a good idea, and I had to draw the line at how many lessons I taught. But so the way that I look at it is this. If somebody's on my mailing list, I don't care if they go to my website. They're on my mailing list. If I have a product launch, I'm going to tell my mailing list. There's no reason, there's no business case for me where I want subscribers to ever go to my website. And if I do, I tell them through my mailing list. Whereas, so I push articles, newsletter, and then website. So the newsletter, you don't have to go to my site if you get it on my newsletter because I send the whole article. A lot of people send click to read more. But my question to you would be this. What is the business case for doing that? Why do you want people who are already on your list to go to your website? For me, the only reason I have a website is to get people on my mailing list, because my mailing list converts better than my website in terms of product sales. My website is just there to get people who might be interested or who should be on my mailing list because they like the things that I like onto it. So I would never want to push subscribers to my site unless I was selling something, in which case they're getting that email. They're not going to my website and finding that product. So I don't know, why would you want to increase page views? Having more page views in and of itself doesn't do anything, right? But if there's a reason to get more page views for something else, then that might make sense. But I can't think of a reason for my own business why I would want to do that. So I guess the universal point there is this, is don't just do things because you think you want like more page views or things like vanity metrics, right? Like page views or number of people on your mailing list. Think about why it makes sense to your business to do these things. So I think that's probably the best answer that I can have for that. Because yeah, like some people are saying in the comments, a lot of people teach the opposite of what I'm saying here, because they're trying to universally say, like, this is something that you need to pay attention to. You need to pay attention to the number of people on your mailing list. Bullshit. It doesn't matter how many people are on your mailing list. It's a vanity metric. The number of page views you have, total vanity metric, does not make a lick of difference. How well those page views convert, how engaged your audience in your mailing list is, those are things that those are kind of important things. Just numbers, I don't know. I don't think they're really that important. So the next question is, how do I achieve the kind of advanced tagging, segmentation, and automation sequences possible with ConvertKit or ActiveCampaign with MailChimp? Is it possible? Thanks, Nicola. So Honestly, it is possible, but honestly, it is a bit more work. So I have my MailChimp mailing list set up where all my users are tagged based on what they bought, where they've signed up from, what they've watched, these sorts of things, and what site they signed up for, because my list is on a few different sites. And then I have automation sequences that exclude people. Like if I have, say, a free sequence, like, hey, buy Chimp Essentials. If you buy Chimp Essentials during that 5-day sequence, you no longer get the free emails. There's 100% ways to set it up. It just takes a little more work. ConvertKit was set up to do specifically that. MailChimp was set up to be a newsletter program that does do these things, whereas ConvertKit was set up to do those things, but also do newsletters, right? So the business cases are similar, but slightly different. But this is actually why I teach Chimp Essentials and why I created the course, is because there are ways to do it and there are benefits to doing it, but it just takes a little bit more work. Like I think there's about 3 hours of lessons in Chimp Essentials. It's how long it takes to set your list up to do exactly like the automation sequences and that. And that's pretty much why I created this course, was to teach that. So it's a good question, Nicola. Kanor asks, is it cool to include content that isn't your own? If so, what should be the best balance between your own content in a newsletter versus content from elsewhere? So there are kind of two ways to do newsletters when you're thinking about content. And the first is, it's just your content, done. You send out, like my Sunday Dispatches email. I send out a new article every week. And then there's people that have curated lists, curated newsletters, which also can be super valuable. My buddy Corbett Barr from Fizzle has a really awesome curated list. The Modern Desk, Kai, the guy who makes Offscreen Mag, is probably one of my favorite curated lists. And what you want to do is think about, like, if this person is interested in your newsletter, what kind of articles would they like? And then you share those articles. It's probably breaking some law if you share the entire article, but besides that, it doesn't make business sense to share the entire article. You just want to link off to the site that has that article in the first place, because if you're sending a curated list, you don't just want to send an email with one article. You probably want to share like 3, 4, 5 things like that. All the curated lists have, like, this is a list of things for this week. So that's probably the best idea. And if you're thinking about a curated newsletter, then look at Corbett Barr's weekly newsletter, weekly lifestyle something, sorry, I can't remember. The Modern Desk is another one. Those are two of my favorite ones. The next question from Nelson. What is your bulletproof template for good responsive email, even in Gmail? So MailChimp's default templates work the best. And they always look good in all the programs because they made them and tested them and everything. I've never uploaded a custom programmed template into MailChimp because their drag and drop are, one, easy, even if you know how to code. You drag images, you drag text, you're good to go. And also they're tested and they're super mobile friendly. That's what I've used for all of my courses. Like, I think I have about 32 or 33,000 people on my lists, and all of them get the drag and drop templates. And if you are a part of Chimp Essentials, I can't remember which lesson, sorry, but in one of the lessons, you can add my template for the Sunday Dispatches into your MailChimp account to kind of dissect it. So, but really, it's just the drag and drop template that I've made to look like my brand, which requires absolutely no coding whatsoever. So somebody said my drinking bottle is vintage. It's just a mason jar. It's everybody that knows me. All of my cups in my house are mason jars. Because I like mason jars. So bulletproof emails. Just the simple template builder in MailChimp works great. So the next question, you mentioned removing subscribers who don't open mail. I've heard that's not a good idea. Can you offer some criteria to deciding when somebody should be removed? So, and I'll answer your next question in a sec. So MailChimp just published a great article that's based on data that says that an inactive subscriber is worth about 30% of an active subscriber. So you have to look at this again through the lens of your own business and your own business goals. So if you have a lot of volume, then like in terms of people buying things, then it may make sense to keep those inactive subscribers. If you have so many inactive subscribers that are costing you more per month than your business is generating in revenue, then maybe you should delete them. What I would suggest before you delete them is to alter the cadence in which you send them emails. So grab everybody on your list that's a 2-star or that has signed up for your list more than 20 campaigns ago, but hasn't opened or clicked any of those 20 campaigns. Make them a segment and don't send them email for 2 or 3 months. And then send them a re-engagement campaign. Maybe send them an email with like your greatest hits of articles or podcasts from the last 2 months that they missed. Or send them an offer for a product that you have with like a little bit of a discount or something like that. So try segmenting those people off and then altering cadence and then sending them maybe a re-engagement campaign. I talk about this in the course too. And then if that doesn't work, yeah, there's data supporting that maybe you could keep them. But for me personally, if somebody hasn't opened a single email in a quarter and they've been on my list for more than a quarter and I've tried a little bit of re-engagement, if none of that works, I don't want to pay for them. I don't care if in theory they should be worth about 30% of an active subscriber. They're just not interested. So I delete them. And that's typically what I do. But I mean, Google MailChimp inactive subscriber value. That'll probably pull up the article. There's some good information there. There's some good data. But that's also, if you think about it, and it's MailChimp, so I don't think they're being sneaky. But if you think about their business case for getting people to continue to pay for inactive subscribers means they make more money. Just think about that. So not saying that anybody's being sneaky. So the next question that Teresa asked, any thoughts on combining lists? Do you advise, or can you combine and still keep the original separate? So I would definitely think about combining lists, because think about it like this. Say you have 5 lists, right? And I sign up for this one, and then you have a product, which is this list. I sign up for this one. Then you have a webinar, which is this list. You're now paying for me 3 times, which is 3 cents or something like that, which whatever, 3 cents. They don't even have pennies in Canada anymore. It's ridiculous. But say 1,000 of me, if I perfect cloning and each one of my clones gets a email address. That could happen. You never know. But say 1,000 people sign up for 3 of your lists. You're now paying for 3,000 people when you should be paying for 1,000 because it's the same people. But if you combine those lists, you would only be paying for that person 1 time. And this is where something like ConvertKit or Drip does this automatically. So they count 1 subscriber once, whereas MailChimp doesn't, but you can set your list up so it does. So if you have 1 mailing list and you have groups or segments for each one of your things, and then people sign up and they get put into each of those buckets. So if there's 5 buckets on one list, you're only paying for that person 1 time, but they could exist in these 3 buckets, or they could exist in these 3 buckets, or all 5, or none of them because they just want your weekly emails. So I definitely suggest combining lists, but it does take work to combine lists, and you need to start to think about if somebody signs up and gets your welcome email, does that make sense if they signed up from each of those places? If you have automation sequences, does it make sense that they fire every time, or do they need to be segmented further, which is easy to do in MailChimp? So I definitely think combining lists into 1 list is a great idea. It does require a bit of extra work. So my headphones are falling out, even though I wear a hat. So the reason I wear a hat, and I talked about this on Twitter the other day, is because these earbuds fall out of my ears. I guess I have really weird ears. So I need to have a hat on, or a toque in Canada, as these are called, or a beanie, I guess they're called, is to keep my earbuds from not falling out. So just a little Paul fact, not that it matters. So Rich asks, if I'm offering MailChimp services to my marketing clients, is there an affiliate program where I can get something for signing them up? Yeah, I show you how to set up the affiliate program in Chimp Essentials, but if you just go to, I think it's account in MailChimp and then rewards, or settings and then rewards, it creates a URL for you. Share that with people. I think you get $30. If there's going to be more volume, then you can contact them and sign up for an agency account. But just the affiliate account, even if you just look up Google MailChimp affiliate account, it'll tell you how to sign up. It's in Chimp Essentials too. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. So, oh, thanks. Roz just posted the Corbett's. It's curated.corbettbar.com and moderndesk.com. So Brett asks, is it worth doing a mailing list when your subscriber list is under 10 people? So do you know how many people my mailing list started at? 0. You know how many people for every mailing list? They all start at 0, right? Like the first email that I sent out with MailChimp for the mailing list, that is the Sunday Dispatches, was 69 people. So it wasn't even 100 people. But I still made it a mailing list because I knew that I was going to work hard at growing it. So if your list is 10 people now, work at growing it. But it still makes sense to have a mailing list in the first place, even if it's 10 people, because if you're doing it, and I know some people do it this way and don't do it this way, is to start their mailing list with just BCCs, like they just write an email in Gmail, then they BCC. You can only BCC 20 people, and then it cuts off. Don't do that. It's really easy to get marked as spam by Google for that, but also that's why newsletter software exists. MailChimp lets you have up to 2,000 people on your list for free. Yeah, you can't set up any of the things that I teach in Chimp Essentials, or you can't set up automation, but you can at least start sending emails to your list. And then maybe once it hits 100 people, or maybe once there's a business case for doing automation or some of the paid features, then you can start doing that. But even if you start at 1 person or 0 people, and you're going to make a mailing list, you might as well start with MailChimp or whatever email software that you want to use. So the next question from Jay is, I found that the hardest thing to create in MailChimp is marketing automation sequence that adapts and sends different things depending on user behavior. Like send this email if they bought a product, send this if they didn't, send one if it's a landing page. Wonder if this is something you've implemented, or any thoughts on this? Yeah, I totally do. This is how every product that I make works. So if we're looking at a product launch, for example, let's do that. So for a product launch, I will typically have 3 automation sequences. The first one is the pre-launch sequence. So just reminding people that, 1, they just signed up for the list, so they get an email saying, hey, thanks for signing up for the list. And then a few emails before launch leading up to it saying, it's coming, remember me, you signed up for my mailing list. Then at launch, I have 2 sequences. The first is if I have some sort of free thing, like for Chimp Essentials, you can sign up for free, get 6 lessons. So that has its own automation sequence. Or if you buy it, there's a post-purchase automation sequence that checks in to see how you're doing with it. It sends you a little survey. It asks if you want to be an affiliate, that sort of thing. And it segments people. So the first one, if you're on the free list and you buy the product, you stop getting emails for the free list. I don't want to pitch you to buy the course if you've already bought it. That doesn't make sense. That's not smart email marketing. And in MailChimp, it's easy to set up segments in an automation sequence, which is what I do. And then in the paid user, I ask, I think it's the 3rd email. So if you bought this 3 days ago, you'll know the email that I'm talking about. But actually, no, this course only came out 2 days ago. So the email tomorrow, you will see this. So in that email, I say, how likely are you to recommend this course to friends? And it's very likely or not very likely. If they click not very likely, email stop. If they click very likely, then they get an email the next day, which is part of the automation sequence, but a segment, if they click that button, saying, hey, since you're likely to recommend this to friends, why don't you join my affiliate program and you can make 50% of every sale. So that's kind of the 3 sequences that I use that are both automation and segmentation. And if you're lost or having trouble following me just talking the words at how this is set up, That's why I made the course, because all the lessons for that are in the course, and you can actually follow me clicking and making these things. So Timur asks, how important an onboarding process is when selling your product and why? So it depends on your product and service. So if you Google PJRBS onboarding, I wrote an entire article about how I onboard people that were buying my web design service and how I do it with MailChimp. If you're selling a product, then exactly what I just said for the 3 sequences. But basically, the long and short is this. The first email that somebody gets when they sign up for your emailing list, the welcome message, is opened more than double, typically more than double the open rate of the rest of your list after that. And it converts the highest as well. So the most sales are generated from the first email than any other email you'll ever send your mailing list. So thinking about onboarding, and this is also a lesson in Chimp Essentials. I guess I'm pitching Chimp Essentials as I answer each question, but only where it makes sense to do so. So there is a bit of a pitch, I guess. I don't know, super soft pitch because it's me. So yeah, the other thing that I do, and this is something that caught the attention of a bunch of people with Chimp Essentials. So I'm going to circle back to Zapier. So when somebody tries to buy the course on chimpessentials.com and they enter in their credit card, if the credit card gets declined, that process is done through Stripe. So Stripe handles payments for my course. If it's declined, I've set up a Zap that says, if a payment in Stripe for Chimp Essentials is declined, send that person an email. So they get an email from me because I've connected Zapier. I connected Stripe to Zapier to my Gmail account, my Google Enterprise account. It sends them automatically an email saying, hey, I noticed payment failed. I blame my payment processor. Do you want to pay in PayPal? Do you want to pay via PayPal instead? Here's the URL to pay via PayPal. So every time there's a failed charge, it automatically sends them an email. And I don't have to, it looks like it comes from me too, because it's technically sent from my Gmail account. It's in my own voice, it's in my own words, it's all lowercase. So it seems like I'm sitting there and I'm emailing people instantly if a credit card fails. That works really, really well, because I think of the 5 charges, because credit cards fail all the time for lots of different reasons, Stripe is set up on my Canadian Stripe account, even though it's in US dollars. So things across the border sometimes fail. I think of the 5 people, there's been a failed charge. All 5 of them have sent me money via PayPal from that automated email that I send them. So automation is awesome. If you're part of Creative class, you'll know that I had my buddy Kurt on talking about automation last month. So automation, especially if you're a business of 1 person, really, really awesome, really, really important. So that was a little sidetrack, but I like that sidetrack. So that was cool. So Chandler asks, do you have any secrets to share from your days as a musician on how bands can better build and utilize their mailing list? So that's a great question. And I actually my band actually has a mailing list, although I wasn't really as into email marketing and newsletters as I am now when I was doing more band stuff. But I think the main thing for bands, which applies to everybody, is that you have to make the newsletter about the people who are on your list and not just about you. So it can't, and I see bands do this all the time. They only talk to you when they want something. So, hey, I have a new album, buy it. Hey, I have a show, buy my tickets. It's like, if you actually started a dialogue or a conversation with your audience and involved them in your process, it would turn out a lot better. Like, share things from the studio, share like photos from the studio, or share like little videos that you make. And I always did this with my band Mojave, is we would share the entire process, not just the end product where we want people to buy our shit. So the same applies to the products. If you are only talking to your mailing list when you want something from them, they're not going to care. They're not going to want to be on your mailing list. What's in it for them? So that's why myself and a lot of other people, that's why I spend a lot of time and money writing new articles every week for my mailing list, because I want to give people as much value as they'll give me when I have a product that's for sale. And it works. And that reciprocity definitely helps. So Yeah, so that's good. Next question is from Lauren. Better to give people as much content up front or make them click through? A/B test this. So I've done this a bunch of times where I have sent half of my list, or I've segmented an A/B test into 20% of my list. I've sent half of them the full article in the email, and the other half of them just the first paragraph and a click through to read more. And then I've seen what does better in terms of opens and in terms of engagement, like in terms of replies. And for me, for my list, it always seems like people like the emails that just have the full article in it. I've also surveyed my list and said, what do you like better? The full article or just a snippet? It's always like 90%, we just want the article via email. Caveats, the typical Paul Jarvis caveat. Try this for yourself. This is why A/B testing exists. This is why surveys for your mailing list exist. You can create a simple survey in MailChimp that just says at the bottom of an email or two, do you prefer full emails or snippets that click through to the blog? Ask people. That's the best. Like I can talk about like this is like the expert opinion on what works. Who cares? Try it. Try it for your own list. That's the best answer, I think. So next question is from Monique. And I'm looking at the comments here and people are talking about the subtle mind manipulation for my soft pitching. It's not. I'm just being honest. If a question is answered in my course, I'm just going to say it's answered in my course. So, yay. Question from Monique. How do I keep emails out of the spam folder? The first thing you should do is make sure that your email domain is authenticated. And that's different from verification. If you sign up for the free lessons, you don't even have to buy the course. Sign up for the free lessons. The first lesson is email authentication and verification. That is the first step. If you create a CNAME and a TXT name on your domain registrar for MailChimp, then it's much better deliverability. The next thing is don't spam people. Number one, that's a good way to stay out of spam. The next thing is to make sure that people know why you're emailing them. So a lot of times people will mark your email as spam if they don't know who you are or they don't know why they're getting this email. So things like carrying branding from your site to your list is super important. So if you have a logo on your site where they sign up, carry that through to your email. If your name or your company name is on your site, use that same in your from email. So you want to make sure people know why they're getting the emails, and it's less likely to show up in spam. Next question. Where is it? Here we go. How many areas of content should a newsletter have? It depends on what? It depends on your A/B tests. So that is something to A/B test. For myself, I found that pretty much sticking to, you signed up for my Sunday dispatches for articles. Here's an article. That works for me. Curated lists, like I'll just keep talking about Corbett Barr's curated list or the Modern Desk curated list. They have anywhere from like 6 to 7 to 8 to 9-ish articles. 100% depends on the purpose of your list. So I would test that for sure, but that's a great question. Next question is from Sue-Ann. From time to time, I clean out my list by deleting people. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. So that's a great question because I get that a lot and I already talked about that. So that's cool. Benefits of MailChimp over ConvertKit. I personally like MailChimp and it does all of the things that I need it to do. I don't know. I have nothing against ConvertKit. Now, Nathan's a friend of mine, so I'm not going to say one's better than the other. For me personally, I'm never going to switch to anything else because I have so many segmentation rules and automation sequences. It would take me a month to move to anywhere else. Plus, I have no reason to. I like MailChimp. Also, I made a MailChimp course, so I can't really jump ship now. I've kind of thrown everything in with them, but I'm glad I did. So The next thing is, what do you do with inactive subscribers? I already answered that, so that's cool. See, this is super. I said this was popular. Already like 3 or 4 people have asked that. Rob asks, I know your main audience is online business, but I'm a marketing consultant for brick and mortar businesses. Will your course assist me with list building for that? There's nothing about list building in the course. There's no marketing stuff in the course, so don't take it if you're looking for that. I'm sure there are other courses for email marketing that are a better fit. Chimp Essentials is just how you technically set stuff up. So next part of that question, does MailChimp's automation function have landing page or sales page, or do you need to set that up in another platform? Yeah, you need to use another platform for that. Oh, I needed to cough. Rob also asks, does MailChimp have analytics that shows who's been inactive and how long they've been inactive? Yep, you can make segments and run reports on all of that. It's actually pretty cool. Andrew asks, do you think MailChimp is less effective if my website isn't on WordPress? Doesn't matter what your site's on. I have 2 lessons with my friend Lauren Hooker that taught you through how to set it up on Squarespace. So it doesn't really matter what your site is set up on, but yeah. Next question. Jay. Oh, non-MailChimp question. Sorry, Jay. Ask that to, you probably know how to find me. Ask that question anywhere else. This is just for MailChimps. MailChimp versus GetResponse. Never use GetResponse. Sorry. I don't know. I know MailChimp. I don't know other platforms. Sorry. Karen asks, I'm looking for a step-by-step course that will dive into the real technical side of MailChimp, including the oh-so-mysterious segments and groups. I've yet to find such a course. I hope this is the one. I hope so too. Will you be touching on lead pages? Nope, I don't use lead pages, so I don't know how to teach that. Sorry. Is there a way to get a sign-up form that will appear in a light box instead of a pop-up? Yeah, it depends on your site. If you use WordPress, there's probably, excuse me, sorry about that. There's probably about 100,000 plugins for light boxes on WordPress. So yeah, I would just look on WordPress plugins. Is the course good for pirates? Yes, it is awesome for pirates. Thanks, Alex. How do you feel about RSS subscribers? Do you discourage them so they're incentivized to sign up for your list? No, I don't care. I have thousands of people who are signed up for my RSS feed, and that's cool. If that's how they want to get my articles, and a lot of people sign up for my MailChimp RSS feed. So if you go to any of your archived campaigns and you have the search bar enabled, it gives an RSS feed. A lot of people subscribe to my mailing list through an RSS feed. Basically, I'm never going to punish somebody for getting my content in a way that works for them. So yeah, I like it. Next question from Joe. Do you like the way MailChimp handles lists where they encourage one master list and people shouldn't be added to more than one? Yeah, I talked about that already. So the way that MailChimp works is a little counterintuitive where one person can exist on multiple lists. But if you set your list up right with groups and pushing people to specific groups and segments based on what they've done or purchased, then it all works out. Great answer on combining lists. You cover that in Chimp Essentials? No, there's no, basically on your list, there's a drop down beside your list that says combine list. Click that. I didn't make a lesson for it, but it's fairly straightforward. And MailChimp's support could help you do that, but I didn't make a lesson on that. I probably should. It's not a bad idea for a lesson. Next question. And I guess I'll do one more question because I just realized that it's like 12 o'clock. So Rich asks, when I'm emailing for a client, is it best for me to set up an account for clients instead of using my own? This is actually a really good question. So no. And this kind of comes down to what I think about client services. But I think that clients should own their stuff, right? So if they have a domain name, they should buy that domain name. It should be in their name. If they're buying hosting, it should be in their name. If they're having an email account, it should be in their name. So what you do, you get them to sign up. It takes like 2 seconds for them to fill in like username, password, done. And then you can either, if they're not technically savvy, ask them for their username and password, go in, add yourself as an admin, and then sign in as yourself from there forward. Or if they are technically savvy, ask them to add you into their account as an admin. That way, everything that the client has isn't owned by you. You don't want to own shit for your clients. You want them to own their own shit. Because I've seen so many times where clients have been like, if they start working with me and I'm like, I need access to your domain registrar. And they're like, well, our web designer has that. And I'm like, can I have that? They're like, well, no, the web designer doesn't like that we hired you instead. So it's just, it's good for clients to own their own shit. That way you don't have to even worry about paying for it. They pay for it. Otherwise, you need to set up your credit card and then build it. Just get them to set it up and then get them to add you as an admin in MailChimp, or get their username and password, use it once, add yourself as an admin, and then every time you log in to your own MailChimp, you'll see, when you click on account, you'll see a list of accounts you have access to. So for me, I manage, I don't know, 30-ish accounts for my clients to some degree. So I only need to log into my account, and then I see on my list, like, oh, okay, I need to edit this client. Then I just scroll down to their name, I click it, and I have access to their account. And I don't have to log in and out 50 different times. So yes, Rich, put that on your site. Our clients own their shit. You should put that on your site. That's a great tagline. So we've come to the end of the Q&A for email marketing newsletters and MailChimp. I hope everybody enjoyed this call. I hope everybody enjoyed my answers. I hope everybody enjoys my coffee table. Just kidding. But if you have any other questions about Chimp Essentials, email me, bananas@chimpessentials.com, or let's talk on Twitter or anything like that. But thank you very much for watching, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your leap day. Hooray, leap days. Bye.